Okay, this is the last video in this little interview thing. However, there's always space for more. So if you think that there's something I haven't covered, or in the process of getting here, you got some more questions, or maybe you're applying for a job and you're like, how do I do this bit? Get in touch. You can email me at emmadslenglish@gmail.com, or you can put something in the comments or whatever, somewhere. Find me somewhere. I'm on LinkedIn as well. And get in touch, and I can always make more videos, or we can meet up and have a chat about it. Whatever works is fine. Okay, so we have talked about preparing for your interview. We've talked about your CV, your application. We've talked about the process and making sure you're ready. You know where your interview is going to be. You know who it's going to be with. Preparing your questions for the interview. We've talked about how we do that. So we've also talked about making sure you have the vocabulary. So remember, you got some of the vocabulary from the job description. You need to make sure you know all of that and you're confident using it when you're answering your questions, so that you're really demonstrating that you know your stuff. And if there's any other relevant vocabulary for this particular job, this particular field, then make sure you're confident using that as well. Presentation. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Presentation. So a lot of people are really scared of speaking in public, and I totally understand that. I was also very terrified of speaking in public, and that's why I joined the Speakers Club. In the UK, we have an association of speakers clubs, and you can go along to that and practice. If you don't live in the UK, I would suggest you check out Toastmasters. Toastmasters is all over the world, so you maybe will be able to find a group that's near you, and they're very similar to the Association of Speaker Clubs. So the whole idea is that you are giving yourself the opportunity to practice speaking in public in front of a nice audience, right? That was the big difference. If you're normally speaking in front of people, you don't know who those people are, and you don't know how hostile they are. Even if they're lovely, you don't know that they're lovely. Whereas if you go to a club regularly, you get to know people, and you know when you watch them talking to someone else, you know what kind of feedback they give. And very often the focus is on giving constructive feedback rather than criticism and really like harsh, painful stuff to hear. So they're really going to focus on the things that you do well, and they're going to help you hone the skills to improve what you're doing. The other thing is both the Association of Speakers Club and Toastmasters has kind of courses that you can go through to improve particular elements of your speaking. So your articulation, your vocabulary, whether you can use comedy, storytelling. There's a lot of different elements to speaking in public. All of those skills will help you do better in presentations, in meetings, any kind of like full-on stand-up public speaking engagements. Is going to help you. And it's building your confidence so that when your boss calls on you in a meeting and says, can you just tell them about this? You don't have a full-out panic attack and not have anything to say because your brain's just emptied. That's what we're working towards, right? We're building you up for success. We're setting you up for success. So giving yourself the opportunity to practice public speaking when it's not important is going to be really valuable to your career when it is important. So if that's something that's like a pain point for you, then I would definitely spend some time, go to a club, find some people, and practice your public speaking. Aside from that, if you don't have the time, if it's like a week until your presentation, you don't have the time. But you can still prepare. It's all good. So preparing your presentation. First of all, you want to figure out what is the question, what kind of things do they want you to answer, and what is going to be available to you. So are you going to have a computer? Is it online? Is it a Zoom call? In which case, can you share your screen? Do you know how to do that in Zoom? I have a real issue with Zoom. It does not like my headphones, and for some reason my computer microphone doesn't work. So if I'm on Zoom and today it decides it doesn't like my headset, I am stuffed. There's no way I can get it to connect and get it to work. Somebody in the comments tell me, what am I doing wrong? Some days I can figure it out. Some days it works fine. Other days it's just a hard pass. No, definitely not doing it. It doesn't seem to matter what I do. Unplug it, plug it, start the computer again. It's a disaster. Anyway, the point is, if I was having an interview on Zoom, I might not even be able to get them to hear me or hear them. It could be a flat out disaster from start to finish. So make sure your technology is working if it's on Zoom. Make sure you know how to share your screen. All of those kind of things. And you can go to practice rooms and try that out. If it's an in-person job, you need to know, do you need to take your own laptop? Does it need to be on a particular kind of drive? What kind of thing is it going to be? Is it one of those pull down great big projector situations? Is it going to be on a wall? Is there no projector and they're just going to be looking at your computer screen? These are all very important things. Is it worth it to just print stuff out? If it's going to be on a computer screen, it's too small for them to see. Maybe just give them a printout. In which case, how big is your printout? Do they need anything at all? In fact, I would say yes. I would say it's good if they have something to take away. I would say they need to have your CV. Even if you've sent in an application form, you need to give them your CV on the day, and they need something from your presentation. Because later, when they're debating who had the best presentation and who did the best this, that, and the other, and who has experience with this, they can go back to your CV. They can go back to your one piece of paper that tells you the key stats from what you were talking about, and they can say, well, look, she knew this, she knew that, she was aware of this. But if you don't give them anything at all, then they are relying solely on their notes, which they may not have took. So I would say it's a good idea to have a handout, and it's a good idea to have your CV that you can give them in print as well on the day. But you don't want to give them a handout that's 10 pages thick. No, that's too much. They're never going to read it. One side of A4, absolute max. They need to be able to glance at it and see what were the key points that you were trying to get across. So, I should have paused it. That's the whole thing. Anyway, so your presentation, what is the question? How can you answer the question? And what is going to be available to you on the day to demonstrate your point? Sometimes it's a good idea to have something to show them. That might be a picture. It might be, I don't know, are you designing something? Can you take in a toy to show them? Everybody's different in what they're doing, what they're applying for. If you're telling stories, it's good to have a picture on there, and then you talk through what's happening. You don't want to put your whole story on here, because then they're reading the story. They're not listening to you. So you want minimal stuff on your presentation pictures. If you want statistics, you're just putting one graph that they can look at on there, and you're highlighting what this graph means. Or you're putting two statistics side by side and you're explaining the difference between these two statistics. You don't want to put everything on the slides. Bad idea. The next thing is, how much time do you have for your presentation and practicing it? Now, what I would say in terms of time with your presentation is you need to be flexible. So if it says you have 15 minutes to deliver your presentation, you need to have bits of your presentation that you can cut out and add in depending on the situation, because you don't know what's going to happen. You might get in there and they say, oh, I'm really sorry, you're the last of the day, we only have 10 minutes. Or you might have disaster, train strike, bus strike, a million things happen, your Zoom's late, whatever. Zoom? No. Taxi. Your taxi's late, whatever happens. And you get there late and you only have 5 minutes for a presentation. You don't know what's going to happen. So giving your some flexibility in what are the most important things to get across. What are you doing if you have the full time, and what can you cut it down to, the basic level stuff that you need to tell them. Okay, got all that done? Brilliant. If you're having like a PowerPoint situation, there's a notes thing you can use at the bottom. As long as you know how to use that, as long as you know how to use that, then it's really helpful to do that. Alternatively, have notes, not a script. Don't use a script, because you're going to get lost in your script. And you need to practice. Back to practice again. There's no way around it. You're going to have to practice. The good thing is you don't necessarily need a friend to practice. However, if you're not used to public speaking, rope in the family. Have the family sit and watch you do your presentation. I remember when I first came back to the UK and I decided to apply for volunteer management jobs. I think it was the very first job I went for was for Guide Dogs for the Blind, which is a charity that I love and is very close to my heart because my cousin has one of their dogs. She's registered blind, and I really wanted that job so bad. And I realized actually when I got in there on the day, I realized they already had someone in mind. There was a guy in the office who was applying for it. I never stood a chance. But when I was applying for this, I had to do a presentation. And I had such trouble. This was before I ever went to Speakers Club. I had such trouble delivering my presentation. And I did it in front of my mom and dad. And I was standing up and I was getting so panicked and my hands were sweating and I was freaking out. And I didn't know what was happening because I was used to doing public speaking. When I was in Korea, I worked with volunteers all the time. So I had done stuff like this before. I don't know what was going on, but anyway, I was panicking. And my dad said to me, just sit down. Just sit down. Why do you need to stand up? And I was like, huh? And I sat down. Do you know what? Made a world of difference. It's totally fine. Totally fine. So practicing in front of your family can give you ideas about how it's going to go on the day and whether there's any sort of coping strategies that you can use to help you do it. You know, there's that thing from, have you seen the movie, is it Made in New York with Jennifer Lopez? And is it Ralph Fiennes maybe in that movie? I'm going back a long way now. And the kid has to do a speech at school and he's a politician or something. And he gives the kid a paperclip and he shows him how he's playing with the paperclip in his pocket and how this paperclip gets totally messed up in his pocket, but it gives his fingers something to do while he's speaking. So it helps him chill out while he's speaking. And when you look at him on stage, you'd never know that he was having a little panic attack in his pocket. Perfect. So there are strategies that you can use. And if you really struggle with public speaking, Google it, man. There's a bunch of brilliant speakers out there. There's a lot of tips. Go find some strategies to help you cope. But the most important thing is that you practice, practice, practice. If you have a presentation for your dream job, you need to have given that presentation at least 8 times. I would say 15 is better, but at least 8 times. That is going to give you the time to figure out how fast you should go, how much time it's going to take to deliver your presentation, how you can line up what you're saying with your slides, when you need to be changing your slides, and how that influences the flow, whether the flow works at all in your presentation, or maybe you need to put this there and that there and move things around. These are all things you'll be working out when you're doing your practice. It's not wasted time at all. And every time you're practicing this, you're getting better at delivering those ideas. Trust me, at some point in the future, that's going to be really, really useful, even if it doesn't work out for this job. It is worth spending the time practicing. Okay, I think I'm done. All right. As I said, any further questions, anything else that you think it might be useful to do a video on, please let me know. I love talking about this stuff. It's really cool and interesting to me because it was a really long journey from terrible at interviews to pretty decent at interviews. So if I can help you get there faster than I did, I am happy with that. I really hope these videos are helpful. And yeah, get in touch if there's anything I can do to help you out. Very happy to help. Okay, bye.